Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Build. Before we start on that, the question that we just had up, kind of a trick question. There's two answers. It was actually B and D, so both patch and put can be used for updates. It's just depending on the different types of updates that you're doing. A put will replace the entire resource, and a patch is like for partial modification. So it's actually a trick question. If you guessed B or D, you are correct. So welcome to Beyond the Build. I'm your host, Talia Kohan. I'm on the DevRel team here at Postman, and we're going to be here every other Thursday showing you what's new at Postman, what our latest features are. And don't forget, throughout the live stream today, if you have questions, be sure to pop it in the chat so we can answer them. We also really want your feedback. So this is your direct line to communicate with us. If you have feedback, comments, questions, let us know in the chat. All right, so we're going to get into our first demo. I'm going to introduce Megan, who's going to demo our Jira integration. Welcome, Megan.
Hey there. So I work on integrations at Postman, and a couple of new updates I wanted to share today are for the Jira integration, which we introduced a couple months ago at PostCon. So you guys might be familiar with that integration where you can actually create new issues or add to existing issues from inside of Postman right there in the request workbench. And these improvements that we have rolled out in the last week are geared towards those of you who have really complex configurations of Jira. We know there's a lot of you out there that have custom fields, required fields. Maybe your APIs live across many different Jira sites and teams that are responsible for APIs in your organization. And we just want to make it easier for you to get those tickets logged as you're noticing a need for them, and save you time and keep you kind of in your flow. So I will share my screen and show you. So we're in the request workbench. If we send a request and aren't getting the response that we are expecting, maybe we can't troubleshoot that error on our own, or we're just not getting the data that we were expecting. We want different data or additional data than what's showing up in that response body. If you go to the ellipses, you can go to Add to Jira Cloud, and you have the option of either creating a brand new issue, or maybe you already know that there's an issue out there and you just want to append some detail about this response to that issue. You also have the option there. One of the new things we've added is you can actually toggle between different sites. So like I said, there's a lot of different teams you might have in your organization across different Jira sites. And so you have the ability, if you want to pick a different site. Then you can pick a project and different types of work type. In this case, let's call it a bug. The summary will auto-populate. You can always change that if you want to, and it'll show what like in this case, the error code is that's being returned. You can add description, but there will be, as we'll see in a moment, some description that auto-populates. But if you wanted to kind of direct people's attention to certain things that you want, for instance, added as parameters or headers, you can mention that in here. I'm going to check the response, including the response body, but you don't have to. And then you'll see here that there's some custom fields. So this is where any of the custom fields that you've created, and it'll say required if those are required fields, will show up here so that you have everything you need to actually save that issue. Because one of the pieces of feedback we were hearing is people who have a lot of custom issues, they might not be able to create the issue previously. So now you'll be able to do that. And as soon as you have the issue created, the context pane will pop out. In the future, if there's any issues against the requests that you're on, you can see on the context pane here, there's a little Jira icon and a little red if there is any open issue. And so you'll be able to see in Postman is there work that's open against, perhaps people are encountering similar problems to what you've encountered. You can see if there's an assignee who's responsible. And then when you go into the issue itself, you can see in this case, there's just kind of a streamlined view of issues of details about the request. If I were to go into another one, you can see sometimes there is the response body. In these cases, nothing is showing up for the response body. But what's nice is you actually are linked back to that historical response. So anyone who's picking up the work is going to be able to actually go in and see what was the response that was returned. Here we go. I'm going to stay in the browser. And you'll be able to actually see. So if I wanted to kind of play around with the auth or the headers or anything that I think could help in this case resolve that error, I'd be able to jump right in and have that same context. And you can see up here, it actually shows the exact time of when this request was originally sent. And so our hope is that by adding some of these improvements with multi-site and custom and required fields, this will just mean more of you have the ability to create those issues in context and in Postman. We're also going to be adding the ability to create issue from your collection runs. So if there are certain failed tests that you're seeing that you would want to have follow up on, context from those failed tests will be able to populate in the Jira issue. So yeah, please test it out. Let me know what you think. If you have feedback, additional context you'd be wanting to see in the Jira issue or functionality, definitely let me know. Thanks. And I will pass it off to Steve and Gia.
All right, thanks. Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a product manager at Postman, and I work in the Postman API Network team. So we're really excited today. We're going to share some updates to our publisher analytics page. Before we get into that demo, though, I quickly want to set some context for what it is exactly we're talking about. To start with, what is the Postman API Network? Basically, the API network allows organizations that own public APIs to distribute that API to API consumers in Postman. So what this looks like is the publisher, which again is an organization that owns an API, creates workspaces, other content that can help publish or can help consumers onboard and use those products. So consumers in this network, they discover the content and they can use it to start testing and building with the API and Postman really quickly and successfully. So publisher analytics. Publisher analytics is where publishers go to see what's happening on the network with their content. We changed a lot about it. So it's a new look. We've got new metrics and insights. We've embedded tooltips that have explanations and guidance, and we've updated our visualizations to now surface the most relevant insights right away. So it's a major overhaul we're excited to share. And what are we trying to achieve with these changes? These three things, right? We want publishers to understand the value of their presence on the network, to gain new insights into how their users are engaging with the content, and then giving them actionable insights where they can go take further actions to maximize the value that they're getting. So with all of that said, it's demo time. I'll turn it over to Gia.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Hi, everyone. I'm Gia. I'm an engineer on the Postman API Network, and I'm going to take you guys through our new analytics page. So without further ado, you'll see on the left-hand nav, there's a new analytics option under publish, and that's how you're going to access this page. And that will take you here. And first off, you'll see at the top, there are nice big numbers. These are the quote unquote KPIs that we want publishers to take away from this page. So we have active users, which are users who viewed, forked, or called your content, API users, which are users who made an API call to your content, and new API users, which are new API users. It's valuable for publishers to know how many users they have checking out or using their content and how many are new, so they can get a better sense of growth, because people want to know that their stuff is being used and they're not just publishing stuff out into the void. And below these headliners, we can start to dig into more insights over time style information. So as Steve mentioned, we want to highlight users. We added a graph to show different breakdowns of the users that come to your content. You'll see there are 3 that match the headliners I showed above, but there are also 2 more: successful API users and error-only API users. This provides extra insight into the results users are getting from your content and whether or not that is changing over time. Now, as we go down, you'll see that on the left, we have the same time series style charts, and on the right, we have corresponding top lists for them. So publishers can see how the views on their collections have been trending and which of their collections have been getting the most views. And similarly, they can see how API calls have been trending and which of their collections have been getting the most traffic. And we also have a toggle on this API call chart that allows us to see the breakdown of these top collections on the right, in case you care about the individual traffic to these collections. Additionally, we have an API call status chart that shows how API call results have been trending over time. It's important to keep an eye on this since you want to know if suddenly people are getting 500s or if the gold standard, aka your 2xx rate, has been dropping. And on the right, we have a chart to show the collections with the highest 4xx errors because these are client errors when they're typically auth related and likely actionable from our side. And now we come to forks. And so if you are familiar with the GitHub fork, this is the same concept. So users are making a copy of your content so they can play around with it. We break down the fork source by public workspace versus run in Postman button. A run in Postman button is basically a shortcut you can add to your dev portal to expedite forking. This is important because run in Postman buttons are underutilized and they're a way for publishers to easily get their users to fork and try their APIs. And so we at the Postman API Network have seen that when publishers add a run in Postman button, forks and usage go up. So we want more publishers to be aware of that and use them. And I know I just threw a lot of information at you, but all of that can be found on the tooltips that we've added to these charts that explain what the chart covers and also provide information on how you as a publisher can influence the metrics showing on the charts. And lastly, if we go back to the top, you'll notice that we have two toggles. One is a content filter, so you can drill down into individual pieces of content and check out the metrics for those. So I'm going to cheat a little bit and pick one that I know we have. Show that. And so you'll see that now we've drilled down into one single workspace and all the collections in it. And now we can check out all the same information I was just going over, but for this collection only. And there's also a week versus month toggle that will allow us to zoom out a bit and look at your data in a month over month fashion. So you can get a more big picture view. You can see that we've bucketed now by month so that if you want to look at the wider trends, you can do that through this toggle as well. And we do have improvements coming. We've obviously shipped this first iteration, but we want to do more. We want to add things like different content types for views. So if you want to see how many views your profile has or what your updates have gotten, you should be able to do that soon. In addition to more call origins for API calls. So you should be able to tell if your API calls are coming from your public collections, if they're coming from your forked collections, if they're even coming from notebooks. You'll be able to do that. And we have new charts cooking as well, so stay tuned for those. And that is all I got for you. So thank you. If you have any questions or suggestions, send them our way. I will kick it on over to Shai to talk about notebooks.
Hey everyone, I'm Shai. I build stuff in Postman. I'm going to talk about notebooks. I'm not going to talk, I'm going to show. Let me show you. Wait. Okay, let's get started. So yeah, notebooks. So notebooks is basically interactive docs that you can write to share information, to sketch some ideas. And it's kind of like including all the good stuff around Postman in one place, which is great again, like if you have to like multiple APIs, compose them together. Here's basically a sketch that I start doing to kind of like have a paddle account and I want to kind of like understand the product analytics. So you can see it's basically an interactive doc, kind of like what you get from Notion, and with smart blocks. You can have input blocks, secrets. You can have request blocks. You can see this one. You can save blocks into a variable, which you can use later. You can see here, like I use that for the product response, and I have here like a code runner, and I can run it, and I get the results. I can use the results in other place, and etc. etc. So basically what we are releasing this week is logs, right? So until now, when you used to use the code runner, you just got the results. And sometimes the results are not very interesting. You can see, for example, this one here on the bottom. The result here is like basically just a JSON because we're going to use this JSON then to send it to Slack. So it's a bit hard to read if you actually want to see like the logs. So basically we had like now that you can use console log as you like. And you can open the logs here and you can see like a very nice thing. So here's, for example, like a nice log of all the information together. which is fantastic because it can also help you to visualize things nicer, but also to debug what's going on if there's an issue or something, which is great. The second thing we are releasing is the ability to refresh requests. So when you work with requests on notebooks, you basically reuse requests that you already have in your collections. And sometimes while working on a notebook, you realize that actually something in the request needs to be changed and you want to get a quick refresh. So until now, you had to like remove the request and then the request again, which is honestly not nice. So basically, we do the refresh. So see that here I'm using this request called param checks. I'll go here. I'm going to add a new param here. I'm going to hit the save. I'm going to go back here and I hit the refresh. It's going to reload for me, and you can see that this B1, it did kept the variable that was before, which is fantastic. And I can just send it and get the results. Basically, that's all for this week. We're releasing things every week for notebooks. So if you want to get up and date, go to the Discord. Like we are there. I'm there in Discord. Tag my name is Shai. Ask me questions, whatever you want, and see like all the new things coming up. The last thing I almost forgot to share is that now we also support async. So basically not top level async, but async. So you can see here there's a function that waits with a promise, and it's going to run. It's going to wait a bit until it's resolved. And it's resolved. You can also see the logs here for the wait. All right, now I promised that now I finished. Okay, so that's all. And I'm going to move it back to Talia.
Thank you. Thank you to all the presenters. I'm like constantly amazed at the pace that Postman ships new features. So thank you to all the presenters. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm just going to give everyone another minute to post any questions, comments, feedback, anything you want to share with the team. And also don't forget to read the August product update to learn more about what was launched this month. I'll post a QR code if you want to scan it. I think this was just released today. And let's check the chat. I don't see any new questions, so I will go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you in 2 weeks for a fresh set of demos, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your Thursday.